Eleanor Whitmore was 72 years old when the world finally decided she no longer mattered. She lived in a small wooden house on the edge of Pine Hollow, a quiet town in rural America where people smiled politely but rarely meant it. Her house stood alone, paint peeling, porch creaking, surrounded by tall oak trees that whispered memories of better days. Once, Eleanor had been someone. She had been a schoolteacher for 43 years. She taught generations how to read, how to write, how to believe in themselves. She stayed late to help struggling children. She spent her own money on books and lunches for kids whose parents couldn't afford them. But now she was just that old woman. After her husband Henry died of cancer, Eleanor's life slowly collapsed. Medical bills swallowed her savings. The pension she was promised was reduced after a corporate adjustment. Her only son, Michael, had moved to another state years ago and slowly stopped calling. Loneliness settled into her bones like winter cold. Still, Eleanor smiled at strangers. Still, she baked pies for neighbors. Still, she believed kindness would return to her someday. She was wrong. One morning, black SUVs rolled into Pine Hollow like predators. A real estate company called Black Ridge Developments had bought land around the town. They planned to build luxury homes, shopping centers, and resorts. To them, Eleanor's house wasn't a home. It was an obstacle. A man named Victor Hale came to see her. He was tall, well-dressed, with cold eyes and a smile that never reached them. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, glancing around her living room as if it were trash, "we're offering you a generous deal. Sell your house. Move somewhere more suitable." Eleanor folded her hands calmly. "This house is my life. I'm not selling." Victor's smile tightened. "You should reconsider. This area is changing." "I'm too old for change," she replied gently. Victor stood up. "Then you'll regret this." That was the moment Eleanor felt fear for the first time in years. Within weeks, her life became unbearable. The water supply to her house suddenly stopped. Her mailbox was vandalized. Strangers shouted insults from passing cars. One night, someone shattered her window. Eleanor reported everything. The police came, nodded, wrote notes and did nothing. Black Ridge Developments denied all involvement. Victor returned. "You still have time," he said coldly. "Or accidents may happen." Eleanor's hands trembled, but her voice did not. "I'm not afraid of you." Victor leaned closer. "You should be." That night, Eleanor cried alone for hours. But something changed inside her. Fear slowly turned into resolve. Victor Hale believed Eleanor Whitmore was weak. He never asked who she truly was. Before becoming a teacher, Eleanor had worked for the Department of Justice as a legal researcher. She had helped build cases against corrupt corporations. She knew laws. She knew loopholes. She knew how powerful men fell, and most importantly, she knew how patient revenge worked. Eleanor pulled out old boxes from her attic. Files. Notes. Contacts. She began making phone calls. Old favors were remembered. Old respect returned. Eleanor started small. She filed legal complaints, dozens of them about zoning violations by Black Ridge. Environmental impact reports. Noise complaints. Historical preservation laws. Every complaint was valid. Every complaint caused delays. Construction halted. Victor was furious. "How is this happening?" he shouted at his team. Meanwhile, Eleanor quietly met with investigative journalists. She handed them documents, timelines, evidence. Blackridge's past wasn't clean. They had forced out elderly residents before. They had bribed officials. They had hidden environmental damage. The stories began to appear online. Then on television. People of Pine Hollow began to see Eleanor differently. Not as an old woman, but as a symbol. She spoke at town meetings. Her voice was calm but powerful. They think age makes us weak, she said. But age gives us memory. And memory gives us truth. The town stood with her. Protests began. Blackridge's reputation suffered. Investors pulled back. Victor Hale felt the walls closing in. Desperate, Victor made the worst mistake of his life. He tried to frame Eleanor. False accusations. Fake witnesses. Claims of fraud. But Eleanor had expected this. She had recorded every conversation. Saved every letter. Documented every threat. When the court case began, the truth exploded like fire. Victor Hale's threats were played in open court. The judge's face darkened. You threatened an elderly citizen to steal her property, the judge asked. Victor said nothing. The verdict was swift. Blackridge Developments was fined millions. Victor Hale was arrested for corruption, intimidation, and fraud. Months later, Eleanor sat on her porch again. But everything was different. Her house was now protected as a historical landmark. The town voted to preserve the area. Neighbors brought flowers. Children waved at her. Her son Michael returned, ashamed but changed. I'm proud of you, Mom, he whispered. Eleanor smiled. Not a loud smile. A quiet one. The kind that comes after justice. One evening, a young reporter asked Eleanor, "Do you feel satisfied after your revenge?" Eleanor thought for a moment. This wasn't revenge, she said softly. It was balance. She looked at the sunset. They tried to erase me. I reminded them I was never invisible. Eleanor Whitmore believed the battle was over. Victor Hale was behind bars. Blackridge Developments was destroyed. Her home was safe. For the first time in years, she slept peacefully. But peace is fragile, especially when powerful enemies lose everything. 3 months after the trial, Eleanor received a letter. No return address. No signature. Just 4 words written in red ink, "This isn't finished." Her hands didn't shake. Her heart didn't race. She folded the letter slowly and placed it in her drawer. Eleanor knew something most people forgot. Revenge doesn't always die. Sometimes it waits. Victor Hale had not been the real monster. He was only the face. The real power belonged to Samuel Crown, a billionaire investor who never appeared in public scandals. Crown owned politicians, judges, media houses, and silence. Victor had fallen. Crown had not. And Crown hated Eleanor Whitmore. She humiliated us, Crown told his associates. She must disappear quietly. No threats. No violence. Just erasure. Eleanor noticed changes. Her pension payments were delayed. Her bank account was suddenly under review. Medical insurance denied coverage. Friends stopped visiting not because they didn't care, but because they were scared. One neighbor whispered, "They're watching your house." Eleanor looked out the window at night and saw a car parked far away, engine running. The world was trying to suffocate her politely. Legally. Silently. At 72, Eleanor could have given up. Most would. But Eleanor had lived long enough to understand something terrifyingly true: a woman with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous force on earth. She reopened her notebooks. She began writing again. Not complaints. Not reports. A confession letter addressed to the American public. "If something happens to me," it began, "you must read this." She scheduled it to be released automatically to every major newsroom if her heart stopped or she disappeared. Insurance. Eleanor reached out to one person she had never contacted before. A former student. His name was Daniel Brooks. Once, he had been a quiet, angry boy from a broken home. Eleanor had stayed late after school every day just to help him read. Now Daniel Brooks was a federal investigative attorney. When he heard her voice on the phone, he went silent. "They're coming after you," she said calmly. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Then they picked the wrong woman." This time, Eleanor didn't fight from the outside. She went for the heart. Daniel and his team quietly investigated Samuel Crown. What they found was worse than expected: money laundering, elder abuse through forced property seizures, illegal medical insurance denials, secret settlements silencing victims. Crown had destroyed hundreds of lives. Eleanor wasn't special. She was just the one who refused to disappear. Eleanor agreed to one interview. Just one. She sat under soft lights, wearing a simple grey dress. "I am not brave," she told the camera. "I'm tired of being silent." She spoke of elderly people forced from homes, of voices ignored, of power unchecked. The interview went viral. Millions watched an old woman speak with dignity and fire. The country listened. He accused Eleanor of manipulation. He called her unstable. He leaked fake medical records. But the damage was done. Too many eyes were watching now. When Crown tried to flee the country, federal agents stopped him at the airport. The man who controlled everything finally lost control. The courtroom was silent as Eleanor testified. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply told the truth. One sentence shattered Crown completely: "You thought I was weak because I am old. But I survived a world that tried to break me every day." Crown was convicted. Life sentence. No parole. Months later, Eleanor's house became something new. A community center for the elderly. Legal aid. Counseling. Education. She didn't live there anymore. She moved to a small apartment overlooking the ocean. Every morning, she drank tea and watched the sunrise. Peace, real peace, had finally arrived. A journalist once asked her, "What should the world remember about you?" Eleanor smiled gently. "Remember this," she said. "Old women are not weak. We are history. And history always fights."